if she calls me today and apologizes, like, I will accept her apology 100%. But
You know, I feel
You
like...
don't have to explain to me.
Yeah, well, I would like to give you an explanation, like, you know.
Have her back.
Oh.
Not gonna lie, it's just made me feel like a shit friend.
No, you're not a
What
shit.
I find interesting is the three people that are begging for an apology from Whitney or are begging for an explanation from Whitney are the people that have upset Whitney and that caused the distress. And that she is the one who is being portrayed as the villain. They are the villains at the end of the story. For Shaq to try and sort of make it out like Whitney was trying to sort of run him over and sort of make him look like the bad guy. No, he did that to himself. And because he realized that people are beginning to see what is happening, this is why he went into attack mode. That way Whitney could be seen as the villain and he the victim. Otherwise, at the end of the day, why did you agree to go to the secret garden with someone if you knew that there was a likelihood you're not going to get a kiss? Make it make sense. The moment they started talking about religion, he realized that he couldn't go from talking about religion to kissing, and this is why he said, let us not kiss. For Jess, Jess is not a victim. You are a bad friend, Jess. You are. If I'm always fighting your battles and you're not fighting my battles, then maybe our friendship needs to be reassessed. So the audacity and the idea that you're crying, I don't get it. And then with this Ronan Keating's son, what I think, this is my opinion, he did all that to try and win the viewers on his side, or to get the viewers on his side, to try and make himself the victim of this situation, because he didn't want to appear as someone who's cold hearted and dumped someone while they were in, you know, a moment of distress. But that is exactly what he did. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island All Stars Season 3, Episode 9. So you have the islanders walking away from the fire pit. Jess is upset. She's talking to Sammy. She said, you know, Whitney was rude. And it's like, how was she rude to you, love? How was she rude to you? Make that make sense. Shaq is in the kitchen. He is seething. He is seething. He's shouting, I had your back, and this is how you treat me. You try and draw me out in front of everyone. And it's like, Shaq, Whitney did not draw you out. Your conscience is the reason why you feel this way, because Whitney has exposed you in plain sight for everyone else to see, because you know why you keep taking girls to the secret garden. You took Helena to the secret garden, you kissed her, and then that's how you became a couple. You took AJ to the secret garden, you kissed her, and that's how you became a couple. Bella took you to the secret garden, and you were going to kiss her had you guys not been talking about religion. So don't make it seem like, you know, you never intended to be disrespectful to Helena. The moment you walked towards the secret garden, you're being disrespectful. And I'm happy that Scott had to call him out and say, but you and Whitney are meant to be friends. You shouldn't be behaving like this towards one another. And for Shaq to be pumping and screaming and shouting, I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. I thought it was really distasteful. Jess then walked in and was saying, Whitney, give me a hug. We're supposed to be friends. And Whitney said, no, I need a moment. Because Jess knew she had screwed up. And because she knew she had screwed up, she decided to go and sort of make amends, because I think she's used to Whitney just sort of brushing things under the carpet. So the idea that Whitney wasn't having it, she didn't expect it. And this is why she started making herself, you know, the victim. Because Whitney told her this was slander. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't, why did you keep pushing for a response when I gave you a look that told you this is enough, you need to stop? So you can't tell me that she didn't understand what was being said. She then went into the outside on the day bed. She was sitting with Helena and Millie and started crying. Oh, she came after me. She said I slandered her. And it's like, how did she come after you? She told you were disrespectful in how you behaved, because you were going to upset not only myself, but Connor, and you're going to upset my other partner, although he was there when I said it. There was no need for her to keep repeating it. And so I don't understand why she was playing the victim. You then had Millie walk in and sort of try and say to Whitney, Whitney, I just want you to know that, Jess is crying. And Whitney said, yeah, so I am hurt just as much as she is hurt. I could be hurting more than she is. Just because I'm not crying doesn't mean I don't feel any pain. Oh, no, that's not what I said. And it's like, so what do you mean? What did you expect Whitney to do? Did you expect her to leave her own problems aside and run and console Jess? I think this is what Millie expected. And it's like, why are we prioritizing one person's pain over the other person? Make that make sense? I didn't like it, and I found it very distasteful. So Shaq, after having a conversation with Scott and being called out by Scott about what was going on with him and Whitney, he decided to go to where the girls were. The rest of the girls were standing with Whitney. They were trying to understand. Bella already knows what happened, so she understands this whole situation because she had a conversation with Whitney before she went to Shaq, and then she had the conversation with Shaq, but wasn't able to relay the conversation or sort of to summarize everything to Whitney. So Whitney was blind for everything that was taking place. For him to come in and so sort of complain, I need to speak to Whitney. He started speaking to Whitney, and then I think he realized it made him look bad in front of the girls. So he asked the girls to leave so that he could have a conversation with Whitney. The moment everybody else left, Whitney told him, take a couple of deep breaths, and suddenly his voice has gone down a couple of octaves. It's now a normal voice. Oh, you ran me under the bus. You shouldn't have said what you said about the case and made it seem like, I was disrespecting Helena. And it's like, that's your assumption. Whitney should have told him, I'm not responsible for your assumption that me calling you out for not kissing Belle is me trying to sort of expose you. I didn't say that. That's you thinking that way. That means that this is a thought that was on your mind the moment you refused the kiss. And so for him to then say, oh, you also said I tarnished AJ's character. No, she said that is who AJ is. Cuddling people. That is who she is. So you can't criticize her for who she is. He was already called out by Sammy and told by Sammy, the same thing you're criticizing AJ about is the same thing you loved about her. He wasn't offended by that. He was told you're for the streets by Helena. He wasn't offended by that. But because Whitney said to him, no, you are not the one who rejected the case, it was Belle, suddenly it's a big deal. He was upset with everybody else. He knew he couldn't be upset with everybody else because it wouldn't be a good look. So he's decided to be upset with the person that he knows everybody else won't care about because they don't have feelings and she won't get hurt by his nonsense or whatever he was saying. I was so upset. So you had Scott coming in with Leanne. They were just walking past and things were getting so heated that Whitney had to say, Scott, can you be a mediator for us? Scott tried to mediate and they tried to separate them until Shaq, when he realized that he was being exposed by Whitney or he wasn't making sense and Whitney was making more sense, he stormed off. He went outside and he was pumping and sort of venting to Kieran. And it's like, why? It's not that deep. This is all not that deep. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal. You then had Scott sort of go and speak to Kieran and Shaq and say, you people are misunderstanding Whitney. Whitney, what she was trying to say to you was, one of AJ's characteristic traits is she's a cuddler. And so for you to sort of be offended and think that she said you tarnished the character, she didn't say that. Kieran, I don't know why he was speaking up. I don't know why he was speaking up. Whether he was speaking because he's trying to go against Whitney, because Whitney's taking attention from Scott, or what was going on there, I didn't understand that. Because there was no need for Kieran to be putting his 2 pence in. That had absolutely nothing to do with him. So I really didn't like it. I had a very bad taste in my mouth about that whole situation. Millie then went and pulled Scott for a chat. And Scott already knew about this chat that it was coming because he had had a conversation with Kieran and Kieran had told him that Millie is interested in talking to you. So I love that Scott was quick to read and understand why Millie was suddenly pivoting because they talked about favorite boy and favorite girl and they were sort of trying to suss out, so are you wanting to be with me because I'm a favorite boy or are you wanting to be with me because you have romantic feelings for me? And I think Millie immediately picked up on it. That's why she never went there to discuss any romantic feelings because she said, thank you for looking out for me and you had my best interest and just best interest at heart. And it's like, when did this epiphany come? Because last we heard you were trying to explore a romantic connection with him. Scott was able to read through and see that, this is what is happening because he was saying, oh, I'm very excited. I had a lovely day. He made sure to let her know that he's had a lovely day with Leanne and things are going amazingly well. She asked, how was your date with Leanne? He said, amazing. How is your connection? Amazing. We're doing very well. So it's going to be difficult for somebody else to sort of surpass that. And it's like, I love it. I love it because he read the room. He realized she didn't like him romantically. She only liked him because of the fact that, he is favorite boy and she wants to be with the favorite boy. That's all we get. So after that chat, you then had Millie go and have a conversation with Kieran and Sammy. And she was asked, how did the chat go? And she went, oh, it was fine. We were talking about his date and how things went on his date. And you sort of questioned, why didn't you sort of talk to him about, wanting to explore a romantic connection? And she just smiled. She knows he's already shut her down. So it's a waste of time for Millie to even try and explore that. For Jack to have a conversation with Whitney and sort of say he doesn't think he's the right guy for her because he's not, or he doesn't want the drama, he doesn't want the theatrics. I'm happy that Whitney shut him down and she didn't entertain him. I think he expected her to cry. I think he expected her to beg him. And so the idea that she just sat there and just watched him and allowed him to say whatever he wanted to say, I'm very happy with. I'm very happy with. Everybody got ready for the night. They all went to bed. And I'm now side-eyeing Shaq. I had no issues with Shaq coming back into the villa. This is not a good look for him. On his season, he had an issue with somebody else, and now he has an issue. This is not it. This is really not it, and this is something that he's going to regret having done. So in the morning, you had Kieran and Jack have a conversation. Jack is moaning, I'm not the right guy for Whitney. I don't want to be in the drama. I don't want someone who's always involved in the drama. And it's like, this is the only situation Whitney has had. It's not like she's been dramatic from day one. She's minded her business. The whole Charlie situation, she did not involve herself. So the moment you see trouble, you're running for the exit. You never liked her. Whitney was being asked by the girls that what's going on with you and Jack, and she said, well, he said, I'm not the girl for him, so it is what it is. Whatever he decides, I'm cool with it. And good for her for not allowing him to sort of make it seem like he had a lot of power over her just because his dad used to be in a boy band. You had the guys have a debrief. You had Sean, Tommy, and Jack having a conversation. And Jack is still moaning, oh, I'm not the guy for her. I don't want to be involved in other people's beef. I don't want to be in the mess. I just want to live my life peacefully. I'm just like, buddy, go home. Go home. We barely knew who you were on your season. We're pleasantly surprised you've come back. I don't know whether your daddy asked them to bring you back or you just came back out of your goodwill. I do not get it and I do not care. Sean, on his part, was saying, he was asked, how are things going with you and Belle? And he said, I think she's just putting on a performance. I think she still likes me, but she doesn't want to show it. And so she's going to play hard to get just because she knows, there is viewers, there's people watching and people wanting to know what is going on with us. And it's like, boy, put your head down. Tommy, he didn't have a part. He doesn't have a couple at the moment. Him and Jess are over, so he's just prepared for whatever comes his way. You then had Whitney have a chat with Scott because she is in her feelings. Obviously, she's entitled to feel how she feels. Because if I know that I haven't done you wrong and you are continuing to come after me, then I'd rather silence you. Shaq was asked by Leanne, so what's going to go on with you and Whitney? He said, well, if she wants to apologize, I'm happy to accept her apology, but our friendship will never be the same. And it's like, so you think Whitney owes you an apology? Fine, that's your opinion. Do you think you should give Whitney an apology as well for raising your voice and screaming and shouting at her like that? Do you think you should do that? That's just my opinion. I feel like he should have apologized to her because it was unacceptable for him to talk to her in the manner that he did, for him to sort of be disrespectful to her the way he was, and place his guilt on her. I didn't like that. Whitney spoke to Scott. She said, Jess was aware of her situation, the fact that she's exploring two connections. She was there when she forgot the name. So the idea that she tried to use that as something to joke with doesn't make sense, especially in a group where everybody else is there. And Whitney has already been called out about her connection with Jack. So the idea that Jess found you meant that I do not get it. When Whitney was saying, I want a friend who has my back, and I don't think she has my back, Jack, she didn't think is the right person. If she thinks, he doesn't want to be a part of her drama, then he might not be the person for her. I agree with him. He's not the person for her. He's not. She can do better. Shaq was in saying to Leanne, I feel like I can't trust Whitney anymore. I have enough friends because if you're going to draw me out, then I'd rather not have a friend like you. And it's like, if you're going to talk to me the way you spoke to Whitney, I would rather have no friends, not selectively, but no friends at all. I'd rather be an island. Thank you. After that chat with Leanne, he then went to have a conversation with Helena and started asking about her faith and religion. And Helena was saying, I don't have a faith. I don't have a religion. I used to go to church as a kid. I haven't been to church in a while. He asked if she'd be willing to go to church with him, and she said yes. And it's like she's going to tell you whatever she thinks will work for her at the end of the day, because she seems to like you more than you like her. And she seems to understand the hot mess that you're in, but she's prepared to sort of put up with that nonsense for reasons best known to her. Jack and Whitney went for a conversation, and she... This got my blood boiling because he said to her, I don't want to interfere in other people's drama. If it's drama between the two of us, then that's fine. But when it's drama that doesn't involve us, I don't want to be a part of it. This is my opinion, and I'm going to stand on it 10 toes deep. I feel like Jack, that whole conversation was doing to cleanse himself of the responsibility of being called out for dumping Whitney. It wasn't because he felt some type of way. He wanted to cleanse himself and come out as the victim to Whitney having treated him badly. So I'm happy that Whitney shut him down and said, I don't need your explanation. You said it's done, let's keep it stepping. Or just charge it. And so for him to be upset, oh, what's she saying, charge it? Charge it is the same as it is what it is. So if it is what it is, keep it stepping. If you've made up your mind and you don't want to hear my side and you've already sort of decided what you're going to do, there's no point in you asking me, so what do you think? I think he expected Whitney to beg him. I think he expected Whitney to apologize to him. He wasn't expecting her to storm or to walk off and just appear as though she didn't care. And so for her to walk off and take the power from him is something he didn't expect. And I love that Whitney walked off, looked at the fire pit, so Jess was there with the other girls, and she walked off and she went and looked for Scott. Because Scott seems to be her only safe space at the moment. You had Jack go to the guys by the benches. Connor was there, and I think he was trying to sort of muddy the waters for Whitney to make sure that Connor as well was not involved, because he was trying to say, she walked off and she just said, charge it. I was trying to explain to her how I feel. And it's like, what does your feelings have to do with her? You said you don't want to be a part of her life. That's it. She doesn't need to care about what happens to you afterwards. If you want someone to know about your feelings, go to therapy. There should be a counselor in the building. To speak to the producers, ask them to direct you to a therapist. That's it. I love that Scott was very reassuring towards Whitney. And Scott was saying, how can he call things off just because of one situation? And yet you were the only person he was interested in. So this is what I think. He liked the idea that he was in an interracial couple. He liked the idea that he could sample something that he might not normally sample. And so this is why he was being with Whitney. And so the moment things took a turn, he decided to run. Scott said his loss, and I agree with him. It's his loss. It's not Whitney's loss. It's his loss. So he can keep it stepping. Elena had a conversation with Sammy because she feels some type of way. She was saying, this man seems to be playing with her, which he is, because he secured her, and the moment he secured her, then he started sort of going through the other girls. I think he knew that he couldn't secure Belle and then do the nonsense he's doing with Helena, so this is why he secured Helena, then decided to go to AJ. When he realized that it wasn't it for him, he's now trying to go towards Belle, but he's looking for an excuse that is justifiable as a reason why he left Helena. This is why he was asking about faith, so that if she says, no, I'm not religious, then you'd say to her, oh, well, I can't be with a girl who's not religious. So I'm happy that they had this chat with Sammy, because she was saying we're not progressing. Even when she sat down to talk to Shaq, Helena tried to put his arm around her, and he immediately found a way to remove his arm. That should have been enough information to tell her that he is now making moves towards Belle. He knows he's got an opportunity with Belle, and he's going to dump me, and this is exactly what he was doing. So I don't know what other clear message she needs in order for her to understand that this is the situation with this man. Whitney had a conversation with Jess, and Jess was saying, I know I was caught in the crossfire. You are not caught in the crossfire. You did something, and you're trying to make yourself appear as though you're not involved. So I'm happy that Whitney said to her, you're not caught in the crossfire. You are actually there, and you were the target. But it was just banter. That's not banter. If that's your banter, then I'm surprised. I'm sorry, that's not banter to me. And so I'm happy that Whitney stood the ground and said, I didn't like that. It's unacceptable for you to behave like that when we're supposed to be friends. Oh, I should learn to read the room. You should have my back, maybe. You should have my back. And Jess always likes to play the victim. This is how she got to be the winner of her season, because something happened with Sammy, and then she played it as the victim, and they ended up giving her the win for no apparent reason. So I totally agree with Whitney in that situation. The girls then sat down for a chat. Everyone was there. I think Millie and Sammy were the only two that were not there. And you had, Whitney just say, Well, I've spoken to Jack, and Jack has said we're over. So for me, that's it. I love that Belle said, "Oh, look at your other man, Connor. He looks amazing today, doesn't he?" So at least there's a silver lining to this. I love that she tried to pivot things for Whitney. That way, Whitney wasn't very sad because Belle has had Whitney's back throughout the situation. She hasn't clashed with Shaq, but at the end of the day, she's always told Whitney, "I am here if you need me. I am here," because she knows Whitney didn't mean any malice in her comments about Shaq. Whitney was just saying what she and Bella had decided. So you had Connor sort of pull Whitney for a chat. I loved it. I loved it. Because Connor has realized that he's got a fighting chance. If he can stick to Whitney, then he's good. Because at the end of the day, Jack has screwed things up for himself. I love that he said to Whitney, maybe he's not the guy for you, so don't worry, I'm here. For just to use this as an opportunity to start crying while Whitney has walked off. Whitney has told her we've made amends. It's not that deep. We can move on. She's now crying to the girls. I feel like a crappy friend. You are. I feel like a crappy friend. You are the captain of the crappy friend squad. I'm confused by Kieran because he sat by the fire pit with Scott and they were having a chat about Scott's conversation or chat with Millie. And Scott was just saying, we were talking about the favorite boy and girl thing, and then we spoke about my date. And Kieran is asking, why didn't she come clean? And he said, well, I don't know. I wanted to keep your confidence. This is why I didn't ask her what she told me. I was waiting for her to say whatever she wanted to say. But at the end of the day, I have to let you know that it's going to take a lot for someone to surpass what I and Leanne have. And I totally agree. I think of the two guys, Leanne is better off with Scott than with Kieran. Kieran, we know, has been through the ladies. Like, he's playing rugby. So I would rather she be with Scott. He seems more calm, more mellow, and I love this for her. So I'm happy that Scott was able to make it known. And hopefully Scott, I think, knows the production is trying to push for him to go with Millie. And so I hope he shuts it down. Millie then gets a message. Islanders, luxury has landed. Check the front door of the villa for a special eBay delivery, guaranteed to bring the main character energy to the night. I was like, oh my god, what is about to happen? I don't get it. So they picked up this eBay box, and then when they picked up the box, you had the islanders sort of start to get ready for the night. Jess received another message. The guys received a message. Islanders, this is not just the one special delivery today. Head out to the garden to find out more. When they headed to the garden, they came across Curtis and Lucinda. This is what I'm going to say. I am biased when it comes to Lucinda. Curtis, I don't care. I think he brings nothing to the show. Last All Stars, he brought nothing with Ekens. So this season, I assume it's the same thing. I think they've brought him in. Maybe they were hoping for Millie, but Millie doesn't seem interested. So with Lucinda lost me when I saw on Love Island Australia. I didn't watch her season, but I watched on Love Island Australia, and she was horrible to Nate. If you've watched Love Island Australia, she was horrible. She treated him badly, and she treated the other girls badly in the villa. And she ended up with this guy called Zach, and we thought this was her person, and they even had physical affection in the villa, physical intimacy. And then she went to Love Island Games. She coupled up with Isaiah and said, this is the one. Because initially she coupled up with a guy from Malta, I think. And then from that guy, she coupled up with Isaiah and said, this is the one. We all thought Isaiah was the one because she won with Isaiah. And suddenly she's back again. For what? We do not know. But I have a feeling she's going to cry and say she's found her man in the villa. And I can't stand her. This is a waste of time. Anyway, we meet Lucinda. She is 26 and Curtis is 26 as well, I think. Lucinda was on season 7 with Millie. Apparently they were best friends. They all sit around the fire pit with the guys and the girls. So Curtis sits with the girls and Lucinda sits with the guys. And they're sort of checking in to find out who is home and who's in a couple and who's not. I love that Scott immediately, the moment he got a chance to sit down with Curtis, told Curtis that I am in the strongest couple with Leanne, more or less to say, leave Leanne alone, she is mine. I was surprised to see that chat because after Lucinda sat with the guys and Curtis sat with the girls, they then swapped around and then Lucinda sat with the girls and she was asked who's your favorite. She wouldn't say. Curtis was speaking to the guys. He said he's serious this time. He's here for love. And then he went off for a chat with Scott and he was saying to Scott, I see a couple of girls that I really like. I really like Millie. And Scott was pushing him towards Millie. I think if he had a wheelbarrow, he would have run with him there. And then he sort of told him, I'm in the strongest couple support Leanne. It's like Scott is marking his territory. He's not playing stupid games for silly prizes. He wants to make sure that this man knows to stay away from her. And it was like, oh my God, so sweet. So you then had the girl sitting down and just debriefing about the bombshells and the boys. And Curtis went and pulled Millie for a chat, and Tommy pulled Lucinda for a chat. What do I think? It was watching paint dry. I don't think Lucinda likes Tommy. I think she was just humoring him, but I think she prefers him better to Jack. With Millie, Millie's not interested in Curtis, not at all. Not at all. So the idea that she is even talking to him, it was like watching paint dry. She didn't seem the least bit interested in him. They spoke about love languages. She told him that I've watched every season of Love Island, which sort of implied that she's got the ick from him. That's the impression that I get. Because why would she let him know that she's watched him on TV? Oh, you're totally different from what I've seen on TV. And it's like, please be honest. Please be honest. Be truthful. Anyway, after that chat, you then had Jack run and pull Lucinda for a chat. I love that Whitney said, if he thinks I'm dramatic, he's in for a rude awakening when it comes to Lucinda, because Lucinda is actually going to be worse. So I can't wait to see that mess. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 8. Bye guys.